Okay, I got my my stator cover gasket. I'm gonna put that on, put the other cover on, and maybe later on I'll try to start this thing up. After I put some oil in, of course. Okay, I got the stator cover on and tightened down with the new gasket. Putting on the mid-gear cover, and there's just one thing I wanted to show about this. Was this bottom screw is also a sealing screw. If you see it, it's got a little copper washer on there. Copper gasket washer. That goes down here because there is oil. There is oil in there. Just want to show that real quick. Okay, I put the covers back on, put some fuel in it, put some oil in it. Tried to start it. Starter motor, even though I tested it before, it did sound kind of strange, but it was spinning, and so me being the way I am, I just slapped it back on there. And I thought what was going on was the starter clutch wasn't engaging. Every once in a while, it would engage, turn over maybe a time and a half, and then it might fire or backfire or something. So I thought maybe back here, I know there's a starter clutch, one-way clutch. But anyway, I took the starter off, and to go through that garbage again. And what I found was a big pile of magnets in there. And there it is. There's the broken magnet. I don't know how well this thing's picking up. So there's all kinds of carbon and junk in there. Actually, the brushes, they don't even look that bad, but the rest of the motor is horrible. It's all full of junk. It was making a squeaking noise. And then check this armature out. See if I can get it to focus here. I've never seen an armature that bad. The insulators in between's all busted up. But the commutator's not bad. I thought that magnet must have busted when this thing was relatively new or something. Sure is all torn up. All right, so we know we need a starter. Oops. I forgot to mention when I put the brakes back together and I tried to bleed it for the first time, I could not get any fluid to come out of this banjo bolt, except just a little bit sputtering here and there. And I could hear something going on up here, but for some reason I just kept pumping this brake pedal for like 20 freaking minutes, hoping that I wouldn't have to take the damn thing apart and take this hose off and everything. Luckily I could just loosen these two bolts and bend it over enough to get a wrench back here, because there's a bolt back there. This is the splitter valve between the rear brake and the front brake. It goes, here's this banjo bolt is the front brake that comes out of the piston, out of the master cylinder. It's a dual system back here. One goes to the back, one goes to the front. It's just teed off here. And where it's teed off, I forgot to tighten that up very good. I thought I did tighten it. I couldn't remember, but there was air coming through there, so it wasn't creating a vacuum, and you couldn't build up pressure to pump either way. But once I tightened that up, then I could bleed the rear just fine, and then I bled the fronts. This also has anti-dive. I don't know if all that's working. I had to clean those up on the V65s I had. I don't know if I can really tell if they're working or not, but I'm not going to mess with them until later. I just want to say that I think I know I was talking about the starter clutch. I think there is a clutch on this shaft with a gear. I'm pretty sure it's called the starter clutch, but I'm not 100% sure. but it's hooked to the starter mechanism, and it wasn't grabbing for all the revolutions of the motor. It would spin. I mean, the motor would spin and this wouldn't even go, and then once in a while it would catch and it would almost try to fire, but it would I'd say 85% of the time it wasn't catching. So now that I know the starter is trashed, I'm kind of hoping and thinking that maybe the starter clutch is okay, and the starter just wasn't spinning fast enough to throw those dogs. If I don't even know how mechanically it's set up, that starter clutch. I didn't really examine the pictures, but I got the manual, and the service manual, and I'm gonna go look into it tonight. So what I'm hoping is when I get a new starter in there that it's going to have the power it needs to work whatever the starting mechanism is in there before I take it apart and start screwing with the starter clutch. I'm going to take the easiest path and replace the starter and then try it again. And that's about it. Now that I think about it, it seems to me that starter was sucking the battery juice down really low when it was starting, even though I had a 75 amp jump starter and a boat battery, in parallel with it. I think it was shorting out. That's probably what all those pieces of magnet in there, and I don't know what was going on. I think we're shorting things out. That's why it was sucking so much power and not running like it should and squealing.